Welcome to another episode of Grief Talk. Everything you want to know about grief and more. I'm your host, Fawn Solis. As an author, mentor, and bereaved mom since 2005, through guest interviews and coaching, here's where you'll always get great content that is inspiring and practical to help you heal after loss. Today's guest is Adam Zuckerman. He is the founder of Buried in Work, which provides resources and services to simplify estate planning, organization, end-of-life tasks, and estate transitions. With a deeply personal motivation stemming from his experience managing his father's estate, Adam is dedicated to simplifying these complex processes for individuals and families nationwide. As an Eisenhower Fellow, attorney, and MBA, Adam brings a wealth of expertise to his role, combining legal knowledge with entrepreneurial vision to drive innovation in the field of estate planning. He seeks to revolutionize the way people approach end-of-life preparations, ensuring that everyone has access to the resources they need to secure their legacy and protect their loved ones. So welcome to the show, Adam. I have been looking so forward to this interview with you. So welcome. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff in audience. I'm going to tell you what that is in just a minute, but Adam, pop in and say hello.
It is great to be here. I've been looking forward to it as well, and we've got a lot to talk about.
We sure do. So in the intro, I'm not going to repeat the intro because you have a huge, like a large background in stuff, probably the wrong word to say, but an impressive background is what I really want to say. But we've connected, and the reason it's just so important, Adam, is because you're here to talk about how you want to revolutionize estate planning, wealth transference. I'm particularly interested in it for as it relates to the Grief Talk podcast. Obviously, emergency preparedness. How many people get caught in an emergency from any age, a baby to an aging parent, and something happens and they're not prepared. They don't even know what to do. They don't have a will. They don't, maybe consider what wealth is. They don't understand estates. There's just a whole bunch we're going to uncover today about what all that is, what it means for every category of person. So one of the things, audience, that's very important for me to learn about today from Adam, you as the pro, is how people can think about wealth, especially when they think they have nothing to pass down. That is just a huge one for me, especially in today's economy, today's just the way we live, and people are barely scraping to get by, and paying a lawyer, paying a notary, to do a will. I mean, I know you can do one on your own and have it, notarized and witnessed and all that, even from another person, but it's a lot. And I don't even think people understand what wills really are. So let's just dive in. And I want you to, if you can, and want to share, I know that you are passionate about this because of managing your dad's estate. He died from leukemia, and I believe it was over a 10 or 11 year period, right? But if you just want to jump in and tell us why you're so passionate about this, and what was it about managing your dad's estate that, sort of has driven this?
It's a great question. So you're right. He did pass away from leukemia. It was about a 6.5, 7 year battle. So a little bit shorter than 11 or 12, but that's okay.
Okay. Thanks.
It was interesting. So he was at my house one day and we were doing some woodworking in the basement. And when he walked up the stairs, he said, "I'm tired." And for normal people like you or myself, when we say we're tired, it means we want to go and take a nap. For him, it means I have to go back to the doctor's office. At the time, 6.5 years prior to that, I actually donated bone marrow to him, and we got him some extra time. I had the surgery and everything, and it turned out to be great in the sense that he was able to get borrowed time. This happened with his diagnosis a decade ago, 2 decades ago. You wouldn't have had any extra time at all. So we got to meet my sister's kids and build a relationship with them. They were younger. My mom had more opportunities to spend time with him, and selfishly, I got to spend a lot more time with him also. Mm-hmm. So he said he was tired. He went back to the doctor. They checked him into the hospital after a test or two on a Thursday, and 12 days later, he passed. So far too quickly. Things can just accelerate unbelievably. It was perfect conversation to up to the day before he passed away, maybe 2 days before he passed away. It was still complete cognitive abilities. On one hand, we got to say goodbye, which was great. And on the other hand, because things happened so quickly, it meant that the things that he had put off and that we had put off as a family, because you never really want to accept that eventuality of what might happen, really came center stage. I was executor on his will. I'm an attorney. I have an MBA. My mom is still around, and I wanted to make things as easier on my mom as possible and the family as well. And I started taking very copious notes about everything that I was doing. And when I met with my mother's financial planner to show her what I was doing regarding the estate transition, regarding the account transition, regarding the marshaling of the assets, at the end of the conversation, I was a bit surprised when I learned that it was the most comprehensive estate transition that the financial planner had ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. So effectively it went, Adam, this is fantastic. You need to get this to other people. Me in the back of my head, being the somewhat skeptic at times, was going, oh, you really just don't want me to move my mom's money to somebody else. It's a very nice compliment. Thank you very much. But I started showing other people what I was working on, and overwhelmingly the response from my friends my age, sandwich generation, to people that are 65 plus went, Adam, I need this information. Please wipe your mom's information from it. Type up your notes. We know you know tech. Put it online so we can get it without having to bother you. And I did that. So I took a stab at it. I thought it would be a side project, but we created a website called Buried in Work. You can go to it now, buriedinwork.com. And within a few days, we had over 10,000 visits to the website.
Wow. That's impressive. So obviously a need that you're filling, a huge need that you're filling.
Absolutely. And as it has evolved since the site went live, we're rapidly becoming that go-to resource hub for estate organization and planning, for end-of-life tasks, and estate transition and probate. And we're approaching things somewhat uniquely in the sense that we actually don't want to help you create your will. We don't want to create your trust for you. We want to give you resources if you're a do-it-yourselfer that you can do it yourself or get educated on what you need if you have a basic estate. And if not, we connect you with service professionals and providers across multiple different disciplines. So estate planning, cemeteries, funeral services, estates, clean out services, death doulas. So really you can come to one place and have the entire life cycle of what you need in one place. The reason why I'm doing it is because my dad was organized. We thought he was organized. We rapidly found out is that administering an estate in the United States takes more than 570 hours on average. I don't know about you, Vaughn, but most people don't have 570 hours laying around.
Wow.
And I wanted to do what I could with the help of a lot of other people that are involved now to reduce that burden. We have free do-it-yourself resources, and then for people that want a little bit of hand-holding, we also have some really neat products and tools that they can leverage for purchase.
That's awesome. I've managed my daughter's estate in 2005, so it really sucks. I understand parents out there who have lost a child. It sucks. She, of course, didn't have a will at 22. We're going to talk about that shortly. Young people, getting them interested in what they have as estates. I have a nearly 32-year-old son, so bottom of the millennial group, does not have a will. Hun, get a will. Does have assets. Does have an estate. But they're invincible. We're going to be talking about that because I want us today, Adam, to get young people watching this and get excited and how they can think about everything you just talked about. So I really want to keep on that. I am in Canada. So one of the things I just want to pop up, for the audience here up front is that your resources are nationwide for Americans, people in the States, correct? So as we talk, some of what I want to think about for people who are coming from other countries, this podcast reaches a number of countries, how they can think about it as well. Because I think that you might be very advanced in what you're doing, and I'm not sure this kind of stuff is available in other countries.
It's a great point, and I'll preface with this. The vast majority of the information that we have on our website was specifically tailored for the United States. However, it is universally applicable no matter where you are. Keeping a record of what bank accounts you have, keeping a record, should be notified your key contacts, organizational systems of gathering information about family members, your citizenship, your career and education history, your phone's digital legacy. That's universal.
Yes.
What isn't necessarily applicable are the state-specific jurisdiction requirements on what makes a will legally binding in Louisiana. That's something you do need to speak to somebody local at your, near where you are in the country and state.
Yeah. Well, just research it. So in Canada, I just want to let people know I did just research. Provinces and territories are responsible for what you just said, for the administering of wills and making sure they're binding. So that is not a federal, it is a provincial thing. Okay, so universally, anybody watching this or listening to this podcast episode could go to your website, gather basic information, at least about getting started, getting their assets and their information together. Let's talk about that, Adam. Some key things. I did want to know if you could explain this, how you're driving innovation in the field of estate planning, and if you could sort of tie that in with information you make available to people so they can at least not be afraid of this, because I think people are really scared to even look at the truth of what they have or don't have. Specifically, they don't have.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to start with a few statistics and I'll frame back to the question specifically.
Okay.
First statistic is 100% of people listening to this podcast has an estate. And you might not realize it, but you do. Okay. If you're in America, I'm not sure if this works the way it does in many other countries, but I believe so, generally speaking. You also have an estate plan, even if you don't have a will, 100%. And the reason why is that if you don't have a will, if you don't have a trust, which are typically two of the foundational documents that people consider in estate planning. We can talk about those and other ones as well.
Okay.
What that means is that when you pass away, there's going to be local regulations, and that could be a law that's state level, provincial level, federal level, depending on your country. And I'm speaking partly to make sure that we're speaking to all of the audience that listens to
Yes.
the podcast.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that will, guess what? It's just going to follow those regulations. So you have an estate plan. It's just not one that you control per se.
Mm-hmm. Adam, I just want to jump in quickly. So a person could even think of their bank account as part of their estate.
Yes. If you wear clothes, you have valuables. If you have money in an account, you have valuables. Yeah. You have something that isn't valuable, but it's really sentimental to you, like a award that you won in elementary school for being that is still part of your estate. So to think, I don't need to have any estate plan because I don't have an A, that's wrong. But B, an estate plan isn't designed for today. The estate plan is designed for tomorrow. And what you want to do is take stock of where you are today. So tomorrow you're prepared and flexible for the future, that you can evolve and your estate plan can evolve no matter what happens.
Yeah. And I just want to jump in for a point for some of you young ones. I hope you younger ones are going to, watch and listen, watch this and listen to this, because the thing is, even your insurance from your employer, life insurance, that might be mandatory. That's an estate, part of your estate. And if someone has to clean it up, right, Adam? Oh, I'm getting too excited here.
The best way to think about it, okay? If you are going to go on a vacation and you get to your island, and you are stuck there. You're marooned on this beautiful island. You have all the food that you need. You're going to have a relaxing 3 to 5 months. But nobody knows where you are. Nobody knows what happened to you. You can't contact anybody. What do you think is going on with all of your stuff at work, at home, in your family life, in your personal life, over the course of the period while you're gone? That is what your estate plan needs to be able to pick up. A will gives general advice and instructions that are legally binding on what has to happen, what you want to have happen to your material possessions. But everything else also has to be considered in that estate plan. If you have children, who's the guardian for them? If you have pets, who's going to look after them? If you have assets, what happens to them? Who pays your bills? Who needs to be contacted? There's so many things that go into an estate plan. It really needs to go to the thought process of, if I disappeared tomorrow, death, disappearing forever. Or even if I'm incapacitated. So what happens if you get in a car accident and you're in a coma for a month or two, or maybe longer, and you just can't advocate for yourself? What happens? And I don't know about you, but personally, While I love my family, I love my wife, I love my mom, I love my sisters, there are some things that I would rather not have them guess what I would want.
Yes.
It's up to me to give them the directives of, if I can't advocate on my own, this is how I want you to advocate on my behalf.
Advocate. Yeah, I love that. I love, love, love. That should get you younger people interested and thinking about this, especially, getting marooned on a tropical island where you really want to stay and may never come back. And then I would assume after a period of time, your jurisdiction is going to treat you as missing, and all of that stuff is going to start to become in play. The other thing I was going to say, people also remember a vehicle is going to be, part of your estate. Adam, you mentioned a bunch of things, but the reason I like having you itemize them and think about it, your clothes, your this, your that, is because, and the sentimentals, is because people just, nobody else wants it. Nobody cares. So the other piece I want to put in here is, even for a little bit of an older generation, check with your children what they do and don't want. We found out our son doesn't want our condo and really doesn't care about my Mustang convertible.
Well, if you need somebody to give that to, I can send you my...
Will you take it? Okay, there you go. Because here's the thing. Even when, like you said, siblings, and in my family, I have one sister and I'm her executor. That's it. Everything falls to me. I've already done it for my mom. I did it for my daughter. It's a lot of pressure. Nobody really wants it, but who else is going to do it? And so when you're thinking about, do I or don't I want to be an executor? Think about it. Think about who you want to ask if you're the one preparing your will. And I'm just saying this from my perspective of someone who's been stuck with the job essentially. So the thing is, because not everyone is capable of doing it, not everybody wants to do it. But but going back to that other piece about who does or doesn't want your stuff, that's so important. I will just say to you, cleaning up my mom's stuff, and she didn't have a will, so I was just made executor, just because even though there were other siblings, I was made executor, and it was the hardest thing, having to decide what to throw out that she had kept because it was so sentimental. So there is a lot of emotional stuff attached to this if you're not prepared. Fortunately, she had told me just a few weeks before her death where everything was, where the money was, if she should die, blah, 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 blah. So I didn't have to worry about that part of it, but I did have to be concerned with everything that was left behind that wasn't designated. So I just want to throw that in to everything you're saying. It's just so emotional, isn't it, Adam?
It is. And here's what's really interesting about that. So in America, every single day, 10,000 people are turning 65, which means that by the end of the decade, there'll be a doubling of people 65 and older, leading us into the largest wealth transfer in history. Baby boomer, silent generation are going to be transferring $84.4 trillion of assets through 2045. Now, there are some really weird implications of that. First of all, that women in America outlive their male counterparts by an average of 5.8 years, so 6 years, let's say. Mm-hmm. If you look at traditional family values, and obviously this is not everybody, always remember to never speak in absolutes. Yeah. There are a lot of women who are about to find themselves in situations where they're thrust into managing their financial affairs. Mm-hmm. They aren't necessarily up to speed on how to do that. Mm-hmm. What we need to do is provide the resources, and this is one of the things that Buried in Work does, is provide the resources so people understand that if their spouse, if their partner, something happens to them, they know what bills need to be paid, how they're paid, what the contracts are, how to step in seamlessly, because we don't want anybody to find themselves, quite frankly, in a time of mourning and high stress, figuring this out for the first time. And then when you take this back to your son, or if you have children, the sandwich generation, so people that are aged 40 to 59, 15% of them are now caring financially and more for their parents and themselves and or a child. Mm-hmm. So when you think about that, if you don't take initiative and get on top of estate planning, not only for yourselves, but for your parents, you're going to have to unravel that mystery of everything they're leaving behind. Mm-hmm. So the recommendation is get everything organized now for your parents, because you're going to have to pick up those pieces, and trust me, that's not a scavenger hunt that you want to go on without their insights.
And also, don't you think people have secrets? Yeah. Okay. I didn't really come across that, but I'm just saying that because what you just said, I'm going to jump on this. I just did some stats yesterday because I wanted to not only sound smart, but no, I wanted to see what they were, the difference between states and Canada. So I found out that 48% of Canadians have a will in general. 74% of those are 55 plus and older. The stats, they're very similar for the states. 36% of 30 to 49-year-olds have a will. So that's only 36%. But if you talk about it, and 69 don't. I think I have my numbers right there, the reverse. That's a lot. In Canada, we're roughly the same. 20% of under 30s have a will. So, 1 in 5. The other 4 don't. So 80 out of 100 do not have planned for their assets. So that's huge numbers when you start talking millions of people. So it's very close to the States from what I gathered, and you can maybe confirm that. But the thing I wanted to mention about the boomers, and I'm going to bring it in here. So we have also the same, maybe not 10,000 a year turning 65, but the numbers are high, where it impacts the government because so many people, if only 40% of Canadians, and I don't know what it is in the States, in general, that 53% have a will, I think I read in the States. So around 50% or just under or just over have a will, but most of those are the older people. But a lot of those turning 65 in the next 5-6 years, right? They haven't planned for their estate. They may not have a will. They haven't even planned. They haven't even done an inventory of what they have. And a lot of them are just spending their money. So if you're not being conscious about it, right? The money goes somewhere. But anyway, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't think we don't have time to talk about it, but I am just going to say I think there's implications for stresses on governments in how they're actually going to be able to ensure pensions, like federal pensions, and basically security for the boomers who are retired, the retirees. And so where I live, and I live on Vancouver Island, we see a lot of seniors working. A lot. And I'm not talking working at their jobs that they loved and can't quit. I'm talking about working at, stores. And it's sad. And anyway, so there is that implication not only on the individual, but also as the state itself, if you will, having to care for people who, in my view, I don't want to say we're careless. I think we're ignorant about estate planning. But I'm not being judgy because none of us are taught this. We're not taught financial literacy, of which wills and estate planning and wealth transference should be taught in high school, as far as I'm concerned.
That is definitely a topic for another podcast.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, you're 100% correct that the shifting demographics around the world in many countries is becoming somewhat problematic because there is going to be a top-heavy societal drain on pension plans. And there's countries where there's negative birth rates right now. And the entire premise is you pay in for other people, and that's complicated. But you're correct that there are considerations there. Back to your statement about the statistics of how many people in America have a will and a trust. Yeah. 2/3 of Americans don't have a will or a trust.
2/3.
2/3 is a recent study, which is unfortunately crazy. Because again, it goes back to that concept that the state, the government, is going to determine how things happen on your behalf, right? So the question then becomes, how do you start these conversations? Because it is a very challenging and scary topic for a lot of people. Yeah. And when we first started chatting, you asked, what are some of the more innovative things that we're doing? Is making this topic accessible to as many people as possible. Yeah. So if you come to our website, there's a page you can visit. This is how to start the conversation with your parents. And within that, there is a very quick quiz that you can take, 2.5 minutes. It goes 2 branching trees. One is for your estate. One is for somebody else's estate, your parents. Oh, okay. And at the end of it, it'll give you a score, 0 to 10. And then based on that score, it says you're very organized, you're not organized. It gives you suggestions that say, here's how you start the conversation with your parents. Cut and paste this message. Mom, Dad, I took this quiz online. I saw the result. I'd like to talk to you about something. So that's one way you can do it. It starts the conversation. Mm-hmm. If you really want to be organized, we have what's been described as the most comprehensive estate preparation organization package you can possibly buy. Mm-hmm. It is a document that has 12 sections, 61 subsections, 50 forms, logs, worksheets, a whole host of other things that helps you organize all the information that is most important to your life. So this is your financial information, your background information, your tax returns, insurance, your health and medical information. So if something were to happen to you, you can go to the binder that can stay in your house. It's blue. You can take the orange binder that has all your medical information, your end of life wishes, the summaries of your advanced directives, if not some of your advanced directives themselves, to the hospital with you. And there's a binder that is actually fire resistant, water resistant that you can store your documents in. So that's something that if you get hit by a bus, this is literally everything that your family needs to be able to step in and manage your estate. And then there's a lot of things that are in between it. So we just revamped our what to do after someone dies checklist. It gives you all the steps of what you need to do in order. It's for free on the website. Okay. We announced 2 card games. One is called One More Story, which is really neat. It's 126 prompts that help you ask questions to save those memories that someone's going to lose when they pass. So tell me one more story about when you were a kid. Tell me one more story about grandpa. Tell me one more story about your favorite experience doing this. Tell me one more story about the legacy you want to leave. Then we have a game called Nothing Left Unsaid. Again, a card game. You can travel with these very easily. Mm-hmm. And it's similar to the estate preparation package. And then it asks if you have a will, if you have a trust, where your documents are. But it's designed for people that don't have enough time to actually go and complete the estate preparation package themselves. So we wanted to make sure that people had as much information as they could for end of life and funeral planning. So we developed guides that are very comprehensive for Christians, for Jewish people, for Hindus, for Muslims, not just us, the experts weigh in, for LGBTQ+, for secular. And then we took those guides for the sandwich generation that really likes tech like me, and we informed ChatGPTs with the guides so you can have a conversation with the guide itself asking questions.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah. We're doing some really neat stuff to make it as accessible to everybody. And we're starting to build out that ecosystem where it links. So if you look at the what to do steps after somebody passes away, and it says, oh, you may want to talk to an attorney here, that's going to link you to the directory where we have attorneys that are in North America near you. It's that cross mesh of a really cool experience that we hope helps a lot of people out.
Yeah, and sometimes it can just be the best money you ever spend just getting it together. I just wanted to jump in on a couple of points. So you've mentioned how you can get young people involved with all of that stuff, but still, how do you get them to the site, Adam?
Okay, you need to talk to them about it. You need to say, hey, I found a really punny site. It's called Buried in Work. This isn't for me, this is for you, or this is for you to help me. And just figure it out. I mean, everybody's unique, just like everybody else. And the question is, how do you get people to learn about it? And that's exposure. You need to start talking about this conversation. You need to make it personal for them. You are going to be impacted if you do not do this. Your friends, your loved ones, your family is going to be impacted. Yeah. And that's the feedbacks that we've gotten from a lot of people. We've had individuals buy our products like the estate preparation package for themselves and for their parents. Mm-hmm. We have parents buy it for themselves and then also buy it for their kids. Mm-hmm. We have companies that are offering it as employee benefits. We have conversations right now with tax prep service providers that are buying them for their clients. We have companies that are purchasing the games as gifts and thank yous. There's so many different angles that you can come at from this. The reality is that it's one of those questions of how do you want to get involved and then what's best for you.
And I'll just say, ask yourself, what do I want to do for my loved ones? How do I want to simplify their life so they don't have to struggle should anything happen to me? And that is just something that is the emotional piece of this. So the communication, and we're not going to talk about that because you just covered it all. I'm actually going to go to your website and maybe do a couple of those things. We've got a will. We talk openly, having lost my daughter almost 19 years ago. nothing goes unsaid. I can tell you that, but it's motivating now the next generation as well. I want to just quickly, we're coming up, not quite to the top of the hour, but we're getting there. So what I don't want to not discuss is, first of all, how people can start to think about wealth. So, someone might be listening to this or watching this and going, yeah, but I don't have a house. I don't have property. I don't have this. I don't have anything. I'm not wealthy. So even though we touched on it, how younger people in the beginning could think about what an estate is, let's talk about what they can think of as their wealth.
There is a variety of things that you can consider as wealth. There's obviously just straight hard cash. There's other intangible assets that you may have collected. There's the sentimental items. There is your legacy itself. So there are things like legacy messaging where you are passing on your thoughts, hopes, wills for the future generation, how you might want to be remembered. That is part of your estate plan as well. So in the event something happens to me, I'd like this person to receive this message. You need to think holistically in the sense of, if you're not going to be remembered in 300 years from now, and most people aren't, I know I'm not going to be, or at least I don't expect to be, what is your legacy? And your legacy is the impact that you leave on the world after you're gone, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, that is your wealth. It's not the physical goods that you're necessarily transferring on, but rather how you've left the world in a better place. Now, if you do want to talk about specific assets and things like that, it gets to a question of financial literacy, which is extremely important. Mm-hmm. We have an initiative called Ask 3 Questions, and it gives you the 3 specific questions that you're supposed to ask of every single financial institution or insurance policy that you have. The first one is, what will happen to this account and or policy when I pass away? Because that's very important. Mm-hmm. Who is authorized to access and communicate with the institution regarding this account or policy when I pass away? Because trust me, try to have a conversation with a bank when you're not allowed to talk to them can be very frustrating.
Yep, been there, yep.
And third, what benefits or entitlements will be available to my designated beneficiaries when I pass away? Because some accounts have insurance provisions in them, have special policies that you get paid out on that can help you with specific circumstances that you might not even expect.
Yep.
But you come to the website, you can download a form, you can go to your bank and say, hey, fill this out for me about every single one of my accounts. And you're going to learn, do I have a payable on death beneficiary designated? Do I have transfer on death? Is this a joint account? Who can talk? And if not, what do I need to have this happen? Mm-hmm. And that then not only makes you more financially literate, but it helps everybody that's going to have to deal with your estate if you're incapacitated or pass away and not have to increase that amount of time that they need to spend.
That is amazing. So I just want to encourage again, audience, just go to buriedinwork.com. I'm sure you can navigate. I haven't yet been to the site in depth to navigate all the different areas, but it's quite easy, I'm sure, to map you and guide you to the areas that you want to learn more about. I'm actually, as you're talking, Adam, I'm thinking that this is a process. This is not something you're going to go to and get it done like in 2 hours. I got 2 hours. I think because this is asking us to consider our lives, consider ourselves and everything we've contributed to the world to this point. And so I just have a quick question for those of us that have a business. At what point do you think, and a business, like, that's not the same as wealth transference. So people that have like incorporated companies, things like that, is there an age that we should shut them down so we don't want to burden anybody else with all this stuff? Like, what do people do who have businesses?
All right. So a business is just part of your estate, depending on how it is organized and your ownership structure in it.
Right.
If you do have a business as you age, one of the most important things you can do is have a succession plan. And it's not necessarily to say that you have to shut it down. If it's still generating revenue and you're still involved, by all means, keep doing it if it makes you happy. But what you need to do is have that plan in place.
Okay.
That in the event something happened to you, individuals know what to do. And that requires having the contact information. What attorneys have helped me set this business up if there's legal documents and structure?
Yeah.
Who needs to be contacted? Who's going to be impacted if this business shuts down? Are customers going to be put out? Do I have partners that need to be notified? And it could be that in the event of someone's passing, that partners have right of first refusal to buy out their interest in the company itself. there isn't a black or white answer to that question,
Okay.
other than to say, you need to start getting that information in order. In our estate preparation package, we have a section for business interests.
Okay.
And it gives you a high-level summary of these are the key people that need to be contacted. This is whether I have a succession plan. And from that, you can start going in layers. But unraveling business interests
Yeah.
can be very time-consuming and expert subject matter required.
Yeah, I'm just thinking also of sole proprietors, for example. There's people that think, again, so many people, this is just what I've gathered over my decades and in the work I do, don't think really highly of themselves. And there's a lot that don't. There are some absolutely that do. But the more we understand that we all are worth something and have something, and you've just really clarified what an estate is, especially your legacy, everything matters with who you are and what you've contributed and are contributing to this world in your own way. And you are leaving something behind, even when you think you aren't. So do it for your loved ones, please. I literally think everybody should go visit Buried and Work and get from it what they can, like go to the site and learn, and then go and research in your country what's available. It's pretty easy to do. Most stuff is online. Like in Canada, we have a supplemental death benefit. I'll bet you a lot of people don't even know about.
Yep. We had the former Deputy Chief Technology Officer, I think that's his exact title, at NASA. Review some the estate preparation package. And the quote that he gave after learning about it is literally on the side of the box. And it says, leave your heirs the gift of organization.
Wow.
The reality is, you might not settle somebody's estate, but someone is going to settle yours.
Yeah. Oh, and I just think it's such a burden. If you've never had to do estate cleanup, I'll just call it. It's awful. I don't care who it's for. It's awful having to wade through and what did they have and whatever. So I'm telling you, the greatest gift we can give each other is the communication and be honest, and don't get hurt, people, if someone doesn't want your stuff. Okay? As Adam says, he'll take my Mustang.
we have on the shop section, and I think it's actually like $10. It's not expensive.
Okay.
It's a family heirloom and keepsakes log. So it gives you 100 forms that you can walk around your house and you can say, this is what it is. This is why it's important to me. This is what I want to have happen to it. If this person doesn't want it, because oftentimes people say, you know what, I want this to go to somebody, but their kids don't want to come over and look through their stuff. Mm-hmm. That sets up the framework of, hey, this is what I want to have happen with. The trick is to figure out really innovative ways to get your family involved. And sometimes if they say no, take initiative in your own hands.
Yeah, because I will just throw this piece in from, again, my side of it is that what we think is important to us, like my mom was a painter as well as a musician. And, the fact was, like, I didn't want her paintings, some of her paintings. And so I felt really guilty about that. And a lot of her stuff went to people who weren't family, who really loved and wanted her stuff. And you've got to, like, if you have the conversation and someone says to you before they go, it's okay if you don't want this. It frees you to, instead of obsess about the one path you're sure you're going down, like I am leaving A, B, and C to this person, and you don't know that they don't even want it, it frees you knowing that they don't want it years earlier to make a different plan. And that is such a key piece because there's an awful lot of guilt associated with not only that on the end of if you're responsible for taking this stuff and doing something with it. And sometimes it ends up in a dump, which is painful to do. And the other thing is, I just think that, and we're not talking about this today. I have talked about this in other episodes with other people, but it's like you said earlier, people don't want to really talk about this stuff because it signifies the end of life or something catastrophic happening medically or something where, again, get your power of attorney. But it is the most freeing thing to talk about it and go, may not happen, but it could happen. And, before every flight, for example, like whatever, just make sure everybody knows where everything is. And that's another point, Adam. Make sure people know where to find your stuff, your will.
Oh, I love that you said that. So in our guide, the first thing that you do is you start getting things organized. Like this is the system.
Yeah.
Step 2 is notify 3 trusted individuals, because if you don't notify them, everything that you did, if people can't find it, doesn't exist. So it's, you started the process, understand what it is. Step 2, notify 3 loved ones. That can be family members, that can be your attorney.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them what's in it, because a lot of people want that mysterious, hey, I'm not going to tell you. But you have to tell people that you've actually started the process that are going to be involved.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a last question, which is going to be your 3 tips people can in general, do to just start considering estate planning. Because listen, anybody that even watches this, it's work going to Buried in Work, it's work going to a lawyer, it's work going to et cetera, et cetera. And as I said, this I believe is an absolute process of introspection and incredible consideration of everything we have acquired in our lifetime. And by the way, young people, you do matter, and you do have an estate. Just a reminder, you do have an estate. You're going to leave something behind. Plan for it now. It'll help your parents should something happen to you. But the other thing I did just want to point out, and you may want to just remark on this, is that even when people really don't have that much to leave behind, there can be considerable arguing and fighting over things. It can destroy families, can it not?
Absolutely.
Right. So, yeah. So it's not that you have to have millions and billions, that people are going to fight over. You could have $10,000 and there could be considerable damage done to families over not only who gets the money, how it's divvied up, but what siblings, children, want to do with an estate. So making this clear for everybody involved can probably save families. Is just what I want to say.
I
Yeah.
had the question about the 3 things. All right. I think it's pretty simple.
Okay.
Sit, create, and update. So first, consider what you want to have happen to your things in your estate, what your legacy is. 2, create the appropriate documentation that is needed for where you live. So it is everything. That can be a will, it can be trusts, it can be advanced directives. That could include a living will, a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney documentation, or portable medical orders, a whole host of other documents that, we can get into the details if we needed to another time. And then thirdly, update. You need to make sure that your plan is not a moment in time. I hear time and time again where, I've created a will 30 years ago. I'm still good, right? No. 30 years ago, A, is different than it is today, and B, the laws have probably changed a little bit. So while the will is probably godfathered in, it likely isn't reflective of your current situation.
Yeah.
So the 3 things is consider, create, and then update.
Thank you. I love that. It's making me think about my own stuff I have to do. One last question as we are coming to the top of the hour, Adam, and then I'll ask you to just leave us with your last thoughts. Do you think people should have a DNR? Is this part of what they could think of, I don't want to say estate, but certainly planning, emergency planning?
Yeah. Okay. That's a funny question. And the reason why is that DNR means different things to different people. So do not resuscitate.
Yeah.
You can have advanced directives that say, from a healthcare agent, I do not want you to resuscitate me if I am non-communicative based on these specific criteria.
Yeah.
But then you have to start going down that rabbit hole of, well, what if you might be able to be resuscitated later? So you have to think about that. Go to an expert that helps you walk through that chain of questions.
Okay.
On the other hand, the do not resuscitate order itself is not something that you create. It's something that is a doctor's order. So what I'd say is, no matter how old you are, if you're going through this process, you should probably have a better understanding of if and when what happens, what you want to have happen to you. But if you're getting into those very nitty gritty questions, you need to work with somebody to help you understand it, because I can promise you that there are a lot of eventualities and possibilities that, because you haven't gone through this before, you're not. We'll draw a parallel that is a very poignant example of this.
Okay.
I had a call recently with somebody, and he was an individual that lives in Virginia, New Washington, D.C. He was married. He got divorced. He has 2 kids. He updated his will because he got divorced. So now his 2 children, if something were to happen to him, would both inherit 50% of his assets. Very easy. And he said, okay, I'm good to go. And I asked him if he changed any of his payable on death beneficiaries on his bank account. And he said, no, I updated my will. But what he didn't realize was that the law is that payable on death beneficiaries get processed as a matter of contract before the will does. So his ex-wife would receive all of his liquid cash assets and his kids would get nothing. So it's really important. It doesn't seem like something that you would have to think about, but he didn't think about it because he didn't know to think about it. There are some of these things where it is worth spending the $150 or $500 to get the advice of somebody who specializes in this.
Yeah.
Because they're going to know things that you don't. That's why you're going to them for help. And for us, it's really neat. And this could be the last thing that I say if you want. In America, on average, an estate planning attorney will charge you between $150 and $400 an hour. You can also have packages for an estate planning package. Like a very simple one could be, let's say, $1,500 to $5,000. That's average depending on where you are in the country, which makes our estate preparation package effectively free, because if you buy it and then you bring the information that you've already thought through to your estate planning attorney, guess what? They're going to be more efficient and they're also going to be able to serve you better.
Yeah.
And that's really why the first step of this is consider, which literally I just came up with as we were talking in 3 words. So consider what you need, get organized, go and create, whether it's yourself or with the help of somebody else, and then make sure that if it's you or them, that it gets updated over time, because things will change that you aren't aware of.
Yeah, I do have I do have one thing that I thought of while you're talking. So on your site, buriedinwork.com, if people want to DIY, do it yourself, can they download a will for their state? Like, are the wills generic, and then just, as I say, I can't remember the word you said, but binding per state laws, but the will itself, the document itself, is it generic?
Okay, so we have on our website requirements for each of the 50 states in the country, what makes a will specific. It's summarized information with a link back to the specific legislative text that makes it binding, some of which can be difficult to read because it's legalese. Across the majority of states, there are certain things that always are important to consider. So is the will something that you have to be of sound mind? Do you have to be 18 or older? Do you have to have witnesses, and how many? So while we will not create a will for you, we do have a template for a very simple estate that we have said that if you want to conform with the majority of the requirements, the high bar, this is what you should have. So you should be over 18. You should be of sound mind. You should have at least 2 witnesses. Those witnesses should sign in your presence. You should also have a notary. Those witnesses that are signing should not be related to you.
Right.
They should not be beneficiaries. So what we've done is we said, here's what are the requirements across as many states as we want, and this should get you there. But even so, we are not your attorney. We are not providing legal services. This is up to you to make sure it is valid. And if you want to bring that will to an attorney, they will help you. But oftentimes what ends up happening is that the attorneys will say, that's a template will. I don't want to use that because this is putting my name on the line.
Yeah.
It can take what you put in it of, I want this to happen in my estate, and then we're going to put it into a will that I'm more comfortable.
That's fair.
Yep. If you need something, yes, you can learn about it. You can see what it is, but take all of that with a grain of salt of what's available. And the reason why is because things change, and we want to make sure that you really do have an attorney who is educated and an expert that can help you out.
Very, very fair. I agree. Get everything an expert's opinion. But in the event someone just does that, though, gets a template, and we're not giving advice, people. This is just a general question, general answer. Is a will that someone just does by themselves, gets their witnesses who aren't beneficiaries, all of that stuff, and just here's the will. It's written, witnessed. Is that still relatively binding, particularly if we're not dealing with tons of assets in that? Just hypothetically, if they write something on a napkin, basically, can that be considered binding? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So In some states, writing a will on a napkin may in fact be valid, but that's one of the questions that you have to look at the text. Is it a holographic will? Is it handwritten? Is it an oral will?
Oh,
When was it written? Was it under duress? Did they sign it? Should it be typed? And this is why we say if you're going to do it right, because what ends up happening is that you open up your estate for challenges from people. And that's really important. So like one thing people oftentimes recommend is, let's say you don't want somebody to get something in your will, you deliberately leave them $1 because they can't challenge that you specifically forgot and they're due to it. No. They specifically left them something in their will. This was intentional of what they left them. But these are the type of things that an attorney will help you figure out and represent you. And I don't want to opine on whether or not that's single handwritten,
Yeah, no, I get it. No, we were, yeah. But it's just interesting to think about that. Then the one, really, this is the last thing I just want to say, if I can remember. It was interesting. Oh, yeah. Don't you have to go to a lawyer or an attorney or a notary or someone anyway when someone dies to execute the thing?
No.
Well, you don't, eh?
Some wills, depending on where you are, and again, I'm not speaking to Canada, you don't need to have it notarized. Some wills, you don't need to have a self-proving affidavit on it. It really is jurisdiction specific. Sometimes it says, okay, if you don't have that, you need to have a physician or two physicians in the room that do this and certify that.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be of sound mind. Like there's so many different variables.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that if you're listening to this and you're not in a hospital bed right now, or you're not in palliative care, or you're not in hospice care,
if
you're still alive, you still have time to make a will.
Yeah.
So you don't have to rush to do it.
Yeah.
And if you do it when you're not rushed, you get to be thoughtful and mindful and really have it reflect what your wishes are.
Yeah.
And if you do it in the situation where you're not rushed, guess what? That means that there will be less challenge that you were doing this of unsound mind and have challenges for the will.
Yeah. At the very least, audience, what I would encourage you to do, definitely go to Buried in Work as you can and just pop in and maybe make it like schedule it in and go, okay, I'm spending, X amount of time and I'm working on this piece of whatever documents they got from Buried in Work. But if you can't even get yourself to do that, start thinking about what you're worth and communicate, because in time, the actual act of putting it into, documentation might come later. We just really want to get people thinking about and starting this process of understanding their wealth and their worth, right, Adam? That's what I can offer on this episode.
You have to start, and it's overwhelming because there's a lot of stuff that you have to do. Even a 1,000,000-mile journey starts with the first step.
Yeah.
You do one little bit, and suddenly you're 10,000 miles in.
Exactly. An amazing way to end this episode off. Adam, I think you covered everything, but I will ask if I missed anything that you wanted to talk about, or did we get it?
No, I think the only thing is, please come to buriedinwork.com. If you have questions, send us a note. If you have ideas for us that we can make things better for you, send us a note, buriedinwork.com. We're here to make your life a little bit easier. And Vaughn, we really appreciated the conversation today.
Me too. Thank you, Adam, for being here. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.